Mic check 1, mic check 2. Ha 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 ha.
Tap it. There you go.
We are live, everybody, but we're also on tape. Always remember that. We are deep down in the bowels of Lee's music. Chris Folds, Greg the engineer, Magic Mike and Bill at the controls. Magic Mike is a juggler, and we also find out right now that you just won the Much Music Radio Awards or something. What's going on?
It's really exciting. We've been nominated in the world for an MMR award, which is Music Merchandise Review. Actually, 4 of them. The only other company that's done that is Yamaha.
And this is for River Song Guitars.
River Song Guitars, yeah.
That's
so
big news.
For acoustic guitar of the year, electric guitar of the year, ukulele of the year, all these things, and product of the year. So we're so different in the industry, and our dealers are really recognizing that, and it's really a proud moment today. So we're going to have the cake, and after you guys leave. And
of course, because we don't bring you coffee, we don't get the cake. 62.
Well, obviously, yes, obviously. We're filming this on October 5th, 2022. And last night, October 4th, Aaron Judge hit his 62nd home run in Arlington to set a new world record for pro baseball home runs. The other ones don't count because they were cheaters.
Yeah.
So 62, it's the AL record. It really is the Major League Baseball record because Bonds and Sosa and them, it doesn't count. So it was very, very exciting. I didn't see it. I was curling, as you know.
Yep.
But I came home and I heard about it, so I watched the highlights, and I think it's really, really cool watching him. And he's also still in play for the Triple Crown. If he gets a Triple Crown, first time since 2012, I think, Cabrera, it's a big, big deal. That's even more impressive than 62 home runs.
You were curling last night at the Kamloops Curling Club. You said your draw weight was bang on.
It was bang on last night. It was weird. He's like, you know when you blow all your good stuff at the start, so next week I'll be hitting the boards and I'll be falling on my head and everything. I rarely have ever curled, but I joined this year because they needed someone, so it's fun.
We do have a cool show today. It's the last of our mayoral candidate interviews. Sadie Hunter, waiting in the parking lot right now, but she'll be in the hot seat here pretty quick. Yes. You and I were going to do just the top 5 things we're looking out for tonight in the Civic Election Forum. Mike, you're involved tonight. Can we just break it down again? What's happening tonight?
Yeah, tonight if you're going to be watching the forum in live, or you can see it at Kamloops This Week Facebook page live, or it'll be taped so you can watch it anytime between now and the election. What we're doing is basically we're having, it's KTW, CBC, and Radio NL, and we're having all the candidates there, and we're having the 5 mayoral candidates on the stage. They're going to open up with a 2-minute opening, and then we're going straight to audience questions, no media questions, audience Q&A for about an hour. They get off the stage, and then we have 23 candidates. 2 can't make it. If all 21 show up, we're going to break them into groups of 6, 5, 5, and 5, 25-minute increments each, and same thing. Q&A will go from about 7 until about 9:45, 10.
And if you can't be there live, you can catch this like on our Facebook page after.
It's going to be streamed live. Mike's helping Chris at our newspaper set that up, and it'll be archived, I think, so you can go onto our Facebook page anytime after if you want to watch the political debate. Okay.
We also have 4 tickets, Greg, to give away to this Friday's Kamloops Blazers game. They're playing the Royals. You can win them by emailing me at klw@kamloopsthisweek.com and also sharing our show on Facebook and subscribing on YouTube. South Kamloops Titans football. Quick shout out to these guys too. They opened the regular season on Friday. They got screwed over last year, remember?
Yes.
Subway Bowl.
Subway Bowl, yep. They got screwed over, yep.
Rain came, floods came. Mm-hmm. Decisions were made by BC School Sports that kept them from going to the dome.
Interior. That's right. Yep.
They were pissed off about it. They still are. Mm-hmm. And here's their head coach, Brad Yamoka, and his son, Kai, star linebacker, talking about that. Does it feel like you guys have some unfinished business just with the way things ended off last season with the playoffs and not being able to go down to the coast?
Yeah, well, a lot of our guys are still mad about that, you know. Feel bad for some of the grade 12s last year, or not some, all of them. They had a chance to do something special, go down to BC Place, play their final year. Got cut short, though, because of the floods. So, we feel cheated. So we kind of got a vendetta against anyone else playing our league now.
I mean, we kind of got messed around a little bit last year with the flooding and everything, and it was unfortunate. I thought we had a great chance to make it into the next round of the playoffs, and those are things out of our control, though. So, I mean, you just got to move on, and, like I said, these kids, it's a good group of kids, and hopefully we'll, be able to make it to the dome in the semifinals. That's the goal anyways.
Okay, Mike, all 3 of us this past weekend, we did something Amazing.
It was unbelievable.
I have almost forgotten, though. I have forgotten what we actually did. Can you remind me, what did we do together, the three of us, last weekend?
Well, one of our things that we like to do that I was really impressed with was eagle watching.
Eagle watching.
Eagle watching.
Like Dave Eagles?
The bald eagles. It just so happened we were coming out of McDonald's with our coffee cups, and I looked out across the valley, and you go hunting, eagle hunting, not like
You kill eagles.
No, you shoot them with a
but
camera.
You're trying to find them with the camera.
I think that's
right?
illegal.
Yeah.
So, we're out there, we're looking, and it's hard to find sometimes when you're looking. But when you're not looking, that's when the magical moments can happen. And that's what happened to us as we were coming out of McDonald's. There they were, silhouetted by the morning sunrise, two eagles majestically flying and frolicking in the air. So it was just amazing.
And one of them came down majestically, and it swooped right in, and it grabbed Foldsy's coffee. And we drink exclusively McDonald's coffee, don't we, on this show?
Ba 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 ba.
And then what did you notice about the eagles?
Well, I noticed that one of them in his beak had a really, really, really ripe-looking
Red pepper again?
Red pepper thing, yeah. And I'm like, and I noticed because it was redder than most other peppers you see, and I thought for sure it's from New Leaf. Yeah, so they had been visiting Herman and the gang over in New Leaf.
And I think Herman and Gord Stevens are both involved in the conservation of eagles.
Yes, I heard that.
These
Yes.
guys do everything. They care about everything. And they're benevolent, just like the Gord's Giving Back program. And we know all about that, don't we? It's for people in need of appliances. Every month at gordskamloops.ca, you can apply online, and they give away an appliance or appliances each and every month to those in need. So we love our sponsors. We love Herman right here. When he's not saving eagles, he's producing the best produce in Kamloops and probably the world when you think about it.
Yep.
And Gord's Kamloops and McDonald's. When we come back, it's going to be Sadie Hunter in the hot seat. But first, a word from Gord's. And did you know that they can actually fix appliances, Mike?
I did not. Well, actually, I did know that because they're excellent at it, and I have some friends that got fixed by them.
They fixed your friends.
They got fixed. Hey, they're also medical professionals. That's good.
He does everything.
Don't want the 9-hour cycle, please. Freaking $500 hydro bill, piece of trash. I need to speak to Gord on the 9er.
Hey, no, I'm actually Steve, the new owner.
First things first, pal. You should probably update your sign. Number 2, my dishwasher is tangled again. The 9-hour cycle, hydro bill through the roof. You guys don't fix appliances, I know that, so I need a new one.
We actually do fix appliances, but if you want, I can try some new ones first and have a look. You got a price in mind?
Money is not an obstacle for me.
Money's definitely an obstacle. He's the cheapest guy in Kamloops. Ain't that right, Darby?
Well, this here is going to be your Cadillac model, top of the line. This is our middle-of-the-road dishwasher, just a great dishwasher at a great price. This is our budget-friendly model, still a great dishwasher, just at a bit of a lower price.
Price doesn't work for me. Let's see if you can fix mine at home.
Alrighty then. There you go, seems to be good. How's the fridge working?
The fridge is fine, Gord.
It's Steve.
I usually do mic check 1, mic check 2. Mic check 1, mic check 2.
Except for I'm supposed to be talking, not you.
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to ask you to do.
Okay, we are good, and we are...
Sadie Hunter, thank
Hello.
you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I asked you this off camera already, but I ask you again. How do you like these forums?
They're good. I also think there's probably better ways for the public to get to hear from candidates. Often there's other stuff going on. It's a little bit of theater sometimes, and it's not easy to get your points and thoughts across. It's a bit limited. It is good to see how people interact with each other in answering questions, but I do think sometimes there can be a little bit of skewed in terms of how information is, the ability to present the information.
Fair enough. Any examples from last night?
Well, there were a group of very vocal supporters who were there for one particular candidate that anytime anyone else had something to say, valid or not, they were, heckling, making noise in the crowd, and that makes it hard for open dialogue and for fair dialogue, and for those who are there to listen to pay attention to what the candidates are saying. It creates a distraction in the audience.
Well, unless Greg pipes up and heckles you, that's not going to happen right now. So you have the floor right now to tell us why you want to be the mayor.
because I believe I'm the best person for the job. I think Kamloops, obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on that requires attention, but it requires somebody who I believe has had lived experience, and I also believe representation matters at the table. And right now, there's voices who are not represented in the leadership role of mayor. And honestly, it's been 30 years since we've had a female mayor in Kamloops, and I think that that's too long. And women do approach leadership differently. Leadership style is often collaborative, through conversation, building relationships, building trust, and that's what we need right now to build a team, because a mayor ultimately is only one vote out of 9, and we need a leader who can build that team. Aside from that, my lived and learned experiences encompass a lot of what we're experiencing in the community, from poverty to substance use issues, mental health challenges. I've also worked in the resource sector, nonprofit sector, done everything from drive truck to raise funds for the nursing building at TRU. So my broad-based experience and my education in journalism and environmental science, climate change policy, all of those things are required right now for decision making.
Chris?
You stand apart from the pack in that you are the first female candidate this century. Kamloops has only had one female mayor since its inception in 1893. And you are the youngest, I believe, of all the candidates.
I think so.
So you have that coming for you. You're young. You have experience on council. On the flip side, though, the first time you were elected, you took leave to run for the NDP. Mm-hmm. Now, some people have said to me, and it's something I agree with, that when you run for office, you are signing a de facto contract with the voters to say, if you elect me, I'm here for the term, 4 years. Some people have criticized you, like they criticized Peter Millibar when he left early to run for the Liberals, necessitating a costly by-election that brought in Ken Christian. That's my long-winded way of saying, how can voters know if you get elected, you won't, answer the call of the NDP? You almost won last time, and leave City Hall to a higher office.
Listen, I'm here for Kamloops, and I took an opportunity to represent Kamloops. It is no secret that when Kamloops has an MLA who is a member of the sitting party in power, who is making the decisions, we benefit from it as a community. I did not even have a party membership until that opportunity came up. So I'm action oriented, and that's how I approach things, and that was a door that was open to try to get things done for Kamloops, because we're banging our heads against the wall. All of the conversation last night was around healthcare issues, and that includes mental health and substance use issues. A need for car 40, complex care, more schools. All of the things that our community needs are provincial. So why wouldn't I, if I could take a shot and help Kamloops get those things, why wouldn't I do that? But I'm committed 100% to Kamloops and to staying and representing Kamloops as mayor. I don't bleed blue, I don't bleed orange. My heart is for Kamloops.
So if you get elected on the 15th, you're not going to be running in the 2024 provincial election?
Absolutely no.
All right.
I noticed after we had Ray Dhaliwal on, you were on Facebook saying, I think it was a hashtag fact check.
Fact check.
So I wanted you to have a chance to have a rebuttal.
The journalist in me.
What did Ray say?
Well, they were trying to put me in my place, and not knowing what I was doing the first go-around, I didn't know when to speak, and I had no help at all. Where Sadie had quite a bit. She had a lot of push from Arjun. Mm-hmm. Arjun's wife was her campaign manager, then her financial agent, and people were pushing her in there. But
he said, and I don't have it, wrote in memory, word for word, something along the lines of, I only was successful being elected as councillor because I had the help of Arjun working on my campaign, and I believe his wife,
he said,
as my campaign manager and financial agent.
Yeah.
But I'll just be clear, I ran my own campaign. I was my own financial agent. That was my hard work, and I earned that role, and the voters voted me in because of my hard work.
All right. Well,
fair enough. Strongly said.
Well, if Ray, you're listening, Ray, you just take that to town there. Yes.
Ray also talked about bullying and harassment as well. That's something that you've talked about before. I just want to get your thoughts on that. Arjun came on and said that he hadn't really seen it as much. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think everyone does have their own experience. I have experienced it both externally from members of the public and in City Hall as well. And I've also observed it in City Hall. So one of my goals is to create I think we need to come back to that culture of trust and building relationship and working on those dynamics that are making it hard for people to come together as a team or to make decisions, whether that be between councillors or between council and staff or council and the public. There is a general sense of distrust, and it is interfering, I think, with our ability to move forward as a community.
Is there an example you can give? If you don't want to name names, that's fine, but is there a more specific example you can give to give people an idea of how you experienced it?
I would say physical intimidation would be, I'll just phrase it as that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Okay.
If that's
Sure.
suffice.
Street issues have been we call them street-related issues. It's a myriad of things. It's the homelessness. It's crime that is and is not related to homelessness. It's mental health and it's addictions and all that. We see it. I mean, it's the biggest issue. It's the number one issue by everybody saying that. You have said that you've criticized the. Reed Hamer-Jackson, your fellow mayoral candidates, he wants to try to set up through the government some kind of recovery center outside of the downtown core. He believes it's better for the people who have these issues. Your fellow councillor Dennis Walsh failed twice in bringing forward a motion to do that. You were critical of that. The first time you thought the language was dehumanizing. The second time you said, well, you can't force people into recovery, so why do that? On that note, though, should the law not be changed where we do have mandatory admission into recovery or incarceration for people who are being recovered 3 or 4 times a day from overdoses, for prolific offenders? Mike O'Reilly, who's also running for council, he is an advocate of mandatory admission, as was David Eby when he mentioned it, the NDP leadership candidate. What's your view on that?
So I haven't said that I am opposed to that kind of, you threw a whole bunch of things in there. First, I just want to clarify. My understanding of the proposal that came forward multiple times was that it would be a city-run facility. So that's different than working with a province. And so there's a distinction there because we don't run health clinics, medical, anything to do with that. The city is not the subject matter expert in that. We're not in a position to run a treatment facility.
I understood it was the city was looking to the feasibility of having the province put it out there, but they're providing the land. I understood they wouldn't operate it, but nevertheless.
That was not my understanding. Even last night in the forum, it seemed clear that they wanted a Kamloops solution, that we would put forward the dollars, that it would be the city who is responsible for it. If Interior Health's not going to come to the table, then let's do it. That's the narrative that I've heard, which is what I challenge, because how are we going to do that? There are already not enough nurses. When I spoke to Adrian Dix a few weeks ago and asked why we still don't have the complex care beds, the answer I got was they don't have staff. They don't have the qualified professionals to actually staff those beds. So how are we going to run a 20-bed treatment facility if we can't even operate 5? Through Interior Health? When it comes to mandatory, whether it's for retention for mental health treatment and services or substance use or both, I'm not opposed to that. What I've said is right now it's not legal. We can't do it.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Should it be legal?
I think we need to look at how we can do that, and that is part of the prolific offenders recommendations that have come forward. And there used to be something like that, and I think we need to revisit the feasibility of doing that and doing it in a way that's humane, but is also protecting the folks who need the care and the folks that need to be detained because they're causing problems in our community.
And improve upon the horrors that was Riverview and everything from the past.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that now, but
All right.
My mind's been turning over here to circle back for 1 second about what you said about physical intimidation. You mean like you were physically, like you felt physically threatened by somebody?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll leave that there.
I mean, I'm not going to go into details, but it's happened more than once.
Yeah.
It hasn't just happened to me. I've witnessed it happening to staff. It exists.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you see that too. I'm going to step in here. You see that also with there's been a number of incidents going through at least one recently. I think there's been a few in the past of staff employees employees who are dealing with bullying and harassment at the city. One of the most prominent ones was the late Marge Sprina, councillor, her son. He went through a whole thing with the city. I think he just settled.
Yeah.
And he was bullied and harassed, and it was a fact that he was bullied and harassed by a fellow employee.
I'm not doubting it for one second. I just felt like I wasn't doing my job unless I asked.
No, that's fine. No, but
here's the issue. So I think naming names and identifying, it takes away from the conversation that is important, because it's not just the one incident or the one person, but it also, I think, takes away from the conversation around all of the issues that are important when people are considering who they're going to choose for mayor, who they're going to choose for council. So I don't want to detract from the importance of being able to hear all of those other thoughts and ideas, and I think identifying individuals would do that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we're asking you to name names, but I think
I'm just providing a reason as to why I don't think it's actually in the best interest.
Yeah. I think Sadie's comments when you made your mayoral announcement, and I think Ray's comments, and I think that the tribunal issue and other stories we've done says there's work to be done at the city hall. What a lot of people don't understand is that not at an employee level, it's almost impossible to fire someone. The person who was bullying Spina kept his job, and a lot of us don't understand. I know there's union stuff in there, but it's ridiculous. Let's talk
about some of the issues that you want to talk about then.
Aside from the crime, the street issues, which is the big issue, what is another issue that is very important that you think we should pay more attention to? Maybe it has during the campaign, but what's the issue aside from that you think is really, really important going into the voting day?
Housing is one, but that is part of overall, I would say, inflationary costs. And that encompasses so many of the other things, including livability, affordable housing, our ability to keep tax rates low. Inflationary costs is, in my mind, the number one issue that we're going to be struggling with and wrestling with for the next 4 to 8 years as the global economy tries to recover from the pandemic. Supply chain issues still exist. The cost of materials are going through the roof. I mean, recently we passed an increase to sewer and water bylaw, and that was because, for example, the cost of PVC pipe went up 30%, and that's just one component of the overall system. And that's not something the city has control over, but we have to react to in a way.
$16 on average. People are losing their minds. Yeah, no, I get it. It's true.
So,
last night there was a question at the forum that I thought was a ridiculous question. I think it came from the chamber. With all due respect, it was a ridiculous question. It was like, what tax rate will you commit to next year? Well, how the hell do you know? We could be in a really good place, or we could be in a depression next year.
So I tried to respond to that by saying, we generally are tied to inflation costs to maintain service levels. If we want to do more, if we decide to do a big capital project like the rinks and arenas, recovery center, whatever it is, that's got to come from our tax rates, which means our taxes are going to go up. So sure, we can do all sorts of things, but either what are we going to take away from somewhere else, or how much taxes are we going to add? So if inflationary costs right now are around 8%, if that's what our tax rate is normally tied to, then what are we going to forego in terms of a service or maintenance, or are we comfortable with meeting that cost? And that's just, it's a numbers game. It's just math. There's no way around it. So that was how I answered the question, because that's the truth.
We're going to talk later about our top 5 things we're watching for tonight, and one of them is who can separate themselves the most, because there's some great candidates out there. So what do you think separates you most from the others?
I'm authentic. I don't take no for an answer. I try to find other solutions. I try to be innovative, think outside the box. Like some of the things that we've been struggling with lately around healthcare, for example, I'm not kind of sitting around and waiting for Interior Health to come to the table, because we've requested it a number of times. I have found a way to be part of an alliance that's a grassroots alliance of other mayors and councillors across the province. We've identified 6 or 7 common themes across the province around healthcare, and we're collaboratively working together to have a stronger voice at the table at the provincial government to advocate for collective needs, but also what we need in Kamloops. When Adrian Dix didn't provide the city a requested meeting at UBCM, which is part of what we do. It's like a speed dating. You get 15 minutes with a minister. So we did have other meetings, including with Sheila Malcolmson and the Minister of Transportation. But I didn't kind of take that, okay, well, I guess we're not going to have an opportunity to talk. I found a way to still get in, to have a meeting, to have the discussion, to relay our concerns, because we need somebody who's not going to sit and wait for the phone to ring or even just sit and make phone calls. You need somebody who's going to go and be face-to-face on the doorstep asking what we're doing. And the other thing that you pointed out that kind of got me a little bit of fire was that I went to, and you heard what I asked, that I went to when the Smorgasbord Cafe when David Eby was here. What was my question? My first question was, I got up, I'm like, so if you're premier, how are you going to make sure that we get the things that we've been asking for?
Yes, that's right.
That's all I asked.
Yeah. At the meeting when David Eby came in, I was covering it, and Sadie was one of the people there. And then she got, well, that's where it came into this. That's why I thought I wrote a column about it. Actually, the
feistiness?
The feistiness of the campaign was getting there, because you got criticized from backers of Deed or Duty for being at the meeting because they thought you called in sick to the council meeting that day, but you were actually on the council meeting via...
You know why? Because I was super sick with a cold, and it's not running out my face. And wearing a mask with snot running down your face for 3 hours is not super fun.
Oh, but you participated. You were on the video. You were taking part, and then you went to the public hearing.
I provided a council report.
Yeah, and you went to the public hearing that night, and you were at EB that time. Because it's shorter,
and I wore a mask.
So what does that tell you? That people, I think it was Jasmine Devick, it was Terry Lake, they were saying, "Aha, got you." Does that mean they think that you're? Are they scared? Are they scared of you?
I have no idea. I'm not interested in playing any kind of whatever's going on there. I'm not interested.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm a strong voice for Kamloops and to doing whatever it takes to get what we need and to be a strong advocate.
You were there to talk to the likely next leader of the next premier.
Yeah. And find out what they're going to do to provide us with CAR 40, the complex care beds, everything that we've been asking cancer care clinic. Because I don't care. I care about Kamloops. I honestly don't care what government's in power as long as we're getting what we need here.
All right.
Greg, thanks for not heckling so far. Sadie, final thoughts.
Pretty quiet over there. I just want to bring it back around to the idea that council is a team and the mayor is one of 9 votes. So it's very important to have a leader sitting in that chair who can bring the team together. I do have a leadership certificate also from Royal Roads. I've done a lot of work with other companies locally, building their internal culture. I can see where we need to work together already and seeing some of the candidates who will probably be successful in terms of council candidates. And we need to show that through leadership to the rest of the community that we are united and we're working together and have that translate out into how we interact with the rest of the community.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me and not heckling.
No heckling. Next up, you and I will talk a bit more, but for now, check out this commercial for the New Leaf Produce Market. New Leaf Produce Market. Straw. Berries. Harmon and Steve, they're best buddies. They're in cahoots with the strawberries. Newfelt makes them down in Abbey, and New Leaf takes them back to Gammy. We made a list here very quickly, top 5 things we'll be watching for tonight in the Civic Election Forum.
That's right.
Number 1 I have on here is a clear and concise plan for addressing the crime and street issues because it's the number 1 issue. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've heard from every candidate we've spoken to. We've spoken to all of them.
Interrupt you here. Of all the ones we've spoken to on this show, do you think anyone has stood out in that regard on our show and making their case on that issue more than the others?
No, I don't think anyone stood out. I think they've stood out in that they each have different viewpoints of it, more or less. I think Sadie Hunter, as we just heard, has pointed out it's a provincial thing. It's a very complex thing. I think Ray Dhaliwal wants to get more law and order, a more simplistic approach that maybe doesn't work. I don't think anyone. Here's the thing: it's not the municipality can only do so much, and they're hamstrung because it is a federal and a provincial issue largely, and they've abdicated their responsibilities and they've downloaded onto the municipalities who don't have the legislative power to do something or the resources to do it.
Mike, actually, just generally, now that we're done all the Canada interviews, anybody stand out of the ones that have been on here to you?
You know, I was going to mention this to you during the break. No, I'm having a really tough time thinking who the clear and concise winner is, and I kind of agree with them all to be on the fence.
Yeah.
About what needs to be done. And obviously, it's a huge problem that we're having. I'm looking for a new commercial building, and every time I find something, I show my wife, and she's like, "You can't do that. That's on Hastings Street."
Right.
Yeah.
So it does impact not only local business but other businesses coming in.
It is. Yeah.
And I think that is the big question.
What about not just on that issue, just in general of the people we've had on and just how they've been on this show? I mean, is there anybody that stood out of the other ones, or do you want to leave that one alone?
I was thinking about this again. I'm looking at them all, and no, nobody really was like strong.
Not because they were bad, but but nobody stands out the most.
Yeah, for me, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think Sadie and Arjun and Dieter, they have that experience of council, so they kind of know what they can and cannot do, the limits of their ideas. And I think all three of them were unanimous in saying that if elected, I'm going to be pushing harder on interior health, on the provincial government. Dieter was very aggressive saying this, Sadie too. Arjun had some ideas about getting more resource workers on the streets. So they all had ideas they want to do, and I think their ideas are within what they understand they can do, like legally and monetarily. I think Ray's ideas were no less ambitious, but he's coming from outside of council right now, but he's more of a law and order type of thing, where I think the other candidates realize that it's much more complex than that right now.
Number 2 on the list, I just have who handles themselves well in the forum setting, which seems obvious, but I just mean who can think on their feet, who can quickly rebuttal and show themselves to be comfortable in that setting, because I think that will come through on camera if you're not, and that might not mean that you're not fit to be mayor, but it might affect the way people want to vote for you.
It could for sure. I think we saw the Chamber CFJC forum last night. I watched it late at night, and it was just the mayoral candidates, and they were all on the podium answering questions. And I think by and large they all did a pretty good job. I thought Reed Hamer-Jackson was off the cuff, but he was sort of appealing to his supporters, many of whom were in the room, and his answers were always it was basically a one issue guy, but for his voters that's great. And he was probably the most less scripted, the most sort of off the cuff,
yeah.
which people like, is genuine,
yeah.
right? Ray Dhaliwal last night, he was more sort of just, he was good, he was passionate, but he was more sloganeering, like AAA Ray, elect me, and I'll go to bat for you. Not a lot of details.
Yeah.
Okay, and the 3 incumbent councillors have a lot of experience in a setting, whether it's city council, whether it's a lot of public meetings, a lot of public forums. Arjun Singh and Dieter Duty and Sadie Hunter, they know how to handle themselves in the crowd. I think they're about equal.
I think things can happen though. I think in Alan Bass's class we learned about, I think it was 1960 when it was JFK and Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon started sweating profusely. Well, and Sadie was talking about how she didn't want to show up because she'd be snotting into a mask.
And that was the first televised presidential election, and people listening on the radio were convinced Nixon won. People watching on TV said JFK won.
Right.
It's because JFK didn't look like a
total mess,
a oily crook.
Yeah.
But on the radio, and if you look back, there's a really good article in the New York Times actually about 3 months ago. The radio debate, it was no question, Nixon was way better. But that ushered in the era of what is it, substance over style over substance?
Right, well, exactly.
And not that Kennedy didn't have substance, but in that case, he won because he was a good-looking guy, and he projected well. And Nixon could shave at 6 a.m. and he'd be fully bearded at 6:30. The poor guy had genetics going against him.
Yeah. Number 3 is brought to you by McDonald's and my great friend Nick Thompson.
A lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So we are educating our crew and staff on different things like pride or just diverse cultures that we have working here. So we talk about like Diwali and stuff like that.
That sounds like a really unique position that maybe other companies don't have. I mean, what does it mean to you to be able to have that kind of position?
It's really nice. I actually love this position. I get to learn a lot about a lot of cultures, which is very interesting to me. And as well as educating about some things that I'm passionate about. Pride is one thing. I'm gay, so it's nice to be able to educate our staff on stuff like this.
Number 3 is, I just wrote feistiness down. We talked with Sadie briefly about it, about how things got a little bit feisty, and if we think we're going to see any tonight. Do you think you're going to see any?
Yeah, we saw some. Through the campaign, we've seen feistiness online and in person. We've seen people sort of snap at each other. I think tonight you're going to see. I think it would do. You're going to see people attack. Attack's the wrong word, but maybe focus on certain candidates more than others, and that might be a sign that they believe that they're the threat. Sadie Hunter has been sort of the focus of other candidates. So maybe people see her as being a threat to her more than others see that. You're going to see Reed Hamer-Jackson, like last night at the forum, the chamber forum. He was talking about how it's the street related problems. Other candidates say it's everywhere, and he's saying no, it's not everywhere. And he said it's not up in Ken Christian's beautiful Juniper neighborhood. It's not over here. It's not over. So he was making a point of saying that he's the everyman.
Yeah.
He's the everyman, and the elite don't see the problems he does when he gets up in the morning. And
as the casual viewer, I mean, do you enjoy seeing the feisty back and forth, Mike? Like, is it entertaining?
I think there's some entertaining value there, but I also like when somebody's forward. So, for example, first time I ever met Sadie, I'd met her briefly before, but it was at a UBCM conference. We were doing sound for it. And I said, "Hi, Sadie," and she looked at me straight in the eyes. She goes, "Do I know you?" Which at first I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, actually, I hadn't met her. But I did enjoy that she was very forward that way.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes if you're not like that, you're not going to get things done.
Yeah, and she was pretty firm today and looking at the camera and telling Ray, "Hey, that's not what happened." And
forward and honest, as you were saying, like she didn't fake that. "Oh, how you doing?" Like she wanted to know, "Hey, I don't know who you are," right?
Yeah. Kids. There was none of that.
Right.
She gets to the point.
But in other times, so yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting because we have quite a few different personality styles on there.
We do.
And somebody that's got a degree in conflict resolution.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I just think to the general public, that's the stuff that stands out a lot. Even when we had Ray Dhaliwal on here, most people who talked to me about that interview, who called him short? They wanted to know who called him short. Like I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying of the people that talked to me, probably 80% that talked about that interview, that's what they wanted to know.
Well, people will say that they don't like the hijinks, but you know what? The National Enquirer was the best-selling newspaper in the world for years, but nobody ever admitted reading it. So there you go.
Number 4, this kind of ties into number 2, so you can question it, but public speaking ability.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I don't think it might indicate if you're going to be capable of being a leader or someone that should be influential in the community, but it's going to play. In these situations, it plays. I mean, if you can't get a thought out properly.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's none of the 5 candidates I think are miles ahead of the other in projecting and public speaking. I think some have more experience. Arjun Singh has a lot of experience. I mean, I
think he's been criticized a bit though.
Well, yeah, he has been. Yeah,
for sometimes rambling.
Yeah, for rambling, but he has the experience of he's a big dialogue guy. I think he has education in communications.
I thought he spoke well on our show.
He spoke well on the show, and he can sort of get flustered and sort of trip over his words, but we all do.
Yeah.
I mean,
we could show the clips of us. School sports, because BC school sports quickly decided.
It can be nerve-wracking even moderating those things, but but I think like if you look at all of them, I don't think anyone's going to be an orator like a Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Nor are they bumbling fools. They're like all of us. They have their good and bad moments, and
right.
I think the biggest thing watching a couple of forums so far is I think it would behoove the candidates to rely less on notes and talking points.
Yeah.
Look up and just speak naturally and try to remember what you're saying. And if you miss a few points, big deal. I think that people just want genuine person talking to them like you're sitting in a pub rather than looking at your notes a lot. And I think some candidates they may be getting nervous, which you can't help. Public speaking is the number one fear in the world.
Yeah.
So I think they should just review the notes, but dispense with them and just talk like a regular person and say honestly what you want done.
That's what appeals to me.
In plain spoken language.
It's people who come across as normal people.
Yeah, I would avoid and I would avoid buzzwords.
AAA Ray.
No buzzwords like we have a synergy. We want to collaborate with the stakeholders.
Yeah.
God, I hate that.
Yeah.
Just talk normal. Talk normal. And then it's like some people. I'm not saying these candidates. Some people in life, it's like they go to get a degree just so they can use these buzzwords, and they talk for about 5 minutes and they say nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So just speak normal.
Anything on that, Mike?
I think this is an important part. As being mayor or council, we do the Southern Interior Legislative Governance Association.
SILGA,
meetings.
yeah.
SILGA, yeah. And they move around from community, and it's for mayors and councils. And what I've noticed, when you go in there and you enter the room, there's rock stars in there. Ken Christian was a rock star with Silga. He'd walk in and there'd be buzz around the room.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to get things done, is to collaborate with other communities. Hey, how did you get this going on in your community? So being able to speak, being able to present yourself in a positive, in a good way and get what you need is really important for representation in Kamloops in these groups, so that they can collaborate and work as a team effectively together, building that culture. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Communication.
A few buzzwords in there, Mike.
That's right. Yes.
But it's important to be able to work with these groups in that setting.
Sure,
that
it
is a big job that
Yep.
I don't think everybody thinks about.
Number 5, last number here. Who does the best job of selling themselves? That's what I talked about with Sadie earlier. What can you do to separate yourself if it is a 3-horse race, which I don't know if it is.
Well, some people think it's a 3-horse race. I think it's a 5-horse race.
Yeah.
I think it's. I really do. I couldn't. This is the first election, like I say, since 2005, where I thought I can't even bet on it, because I don't know it could be a landslide, but it could be really, really tight. So I think they have to just go with what they have to appeal not just to their base. So here's the thing. You already got those votes. The people who like what you are about, whether you're any of the candidates, you have to think about, okay, what about the people on the fence? Or how do I sway a person who might be voting for this candidate? What can I do? And you don't have to lie, but how do you appeal to them to say that, what I'm doing here is great, but I'm also going to address your concerns this way. So you have to, I'm sure they have their people in the background looking at that and saying, hey, how do we get the swing voters?
Well, we talked about this, and Reed Hammer-Jackson had a lot of support last night. I mean, is that indicative of the whole scene? Is that a microcosm, or is that just the vocal minority?
It remains to be seen, but if you think about the last federal election, Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, drew the largest crowds as he went across the country, and there was people saying the People's Party of Canada is a revolution, we're going to get 50% of the vote. And I remember arguing with my sister, who was a fervent PPR, and I said, you guys would be lucky to get 5%. And I just said that as a fact, because you got all these people, you got 1,000 people screaming, but it's 1,000 people. There's 35 million people in the country, and a lot of people are too busy working to go to these kind of things, or they don't, adhere to conspiracy theories. Anyway, they got 5% of the vote. My prediction was dead on. I had callers telling me, "You're gonna eat your words. We're gonna get 50% of the vote." No, you didn't. So it's not necessarily. And Reed Hammer and Ray Dhaliwal have really, really vocal online supporters who flood ours and other feeds.
And they showed up last night.
So if that, we call it the anger vote, translates to the poll, he could win. But it also could be mimicking what we've seen previously with populist movements, where the traditional parties still win because they have a base that you don't hear, but they're the ones who go out and vote, and they don't have to go out and make a noise because they know what they're going to do. They don't have to demonstrate it to other people.
Anything, Michael? Are you actually a Michael?
I actually am an AEL Michael.
AEL.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
truthful. Yeah. No, I think it's a 5-way race as well. I'd like to do a gentleman's bet with you guys, or even a $5 bet. But I don't have anybody that
I wouldn't. I mean, I'll bet. I love betting. I'm a gambler, but and I'll bet you if you want. But if we pick names from a hat. But if you were to say, I'm in NFL pools and you study who's going to win,
Right.
I couldn't tell you who's going to win this mayor's race.
I have thoughts, but I'm going to save them just because I don't think I should share them.
Why not?
Well,
Do you vote?
based on my job.
Do you vote?
Yeah.
Well then, speak up, man.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
He's gonna sit on the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call home harbor. Need more wood.
And,
Okay.
and cowbellow.
Yeah.
on the fence.
That's right.
All right, we've eclipsed the 250 subscriber mark thanks to the last week click out there. So thanks very much. Go on to YouTube and subscribe. And we couldn't do it without our sponsors. Could we, Mike? One of them being McDonald's. We also have Herman Hoti, the Eagle Saver from New Leaf Produce Market. It's the last day of the fall harvest case lot sale right now at New Leaf Produce Market and at Gord's Appliance and Mattress Center, the Sealy mattress. We know about the Sealy mattress, don't we?
Oh yeah, I'm late for this show a lot because it's hard to get off the mattress. It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. For Chris, for Greg, for Mike, for Bill, I'm Marty. We'll see you last week.
Last.